All right, y'all. I wanted to make sure that you have enough guidance to make it through this thing since it's going to be due on Monday. This is your DBQ, Government in 19th Century Latin America. The prompt that you need to deal with is right here. Analyze the state structures and political attitudes in Latin America nations during the 19th century. So basically what you're going to need to figure out by looking over the documents is what sort of attitudes did people have in Latin America when it comes to government, when it comes to state power. What sort of political systems or structures did they have? So were they dictatorships? Were they democracies? Were they republics? What sort of governments did they come up with in these revolutions in the 1800s? That's the 19th century, by the way. So this historical background gives you some idea, a very, very brief idea about how the Enlightenment affected. So the Enlightenment then leads to people having either new ideas or rehashing old ideas to make governments run apart from Europe. That was the whole big thing, was they wanted to break Spain, Portugal, and so on. So as you look through the documents, start just by looking at the source. This is somebody from Haiti in 1804, Declaration of Allegiance. So look at what the document is, like what is the source, what is the information it holds. Then read what the document has to say. So in this one, for instance, we swear entire obedience to the laws he shall deem fit to make, his authority being the only one we acknowledge. We authorize him to make peace and war, and to appoint his successor. So Governor General for life is who we're talking about here. And so these people, what they're basically saying is they're going to follow one person. So what you need to think about is, what kind of government is that? What does that sound like? Is that a monarchy? Is it an empire? Is it dictatorship? Is it tyranny? So as you go through each document, try to figure out what the governments were like in Latin America. So after you've looked at all the different documents, which I'll scroll through, is going a little bit slow here. As you look at each document, try to think about, did they want free democracy, republic, like what the American colonies, the 13 colonies, did, which they were the first model in the following the Enlightenment? Or did they try to branch off and make their own systems in Latin America? Or did they kind of keep the old way of doing things with Europe, where you had these strong single rulers, only instead of the strong single ruler being in Europe, the strong single ruler is in the Americas? So read through each one and look at what they have to say. Like this one shows a dictator of Argentina. This shows constitutions. Read what each one has to say, and since you have your own copy, write out to the side, what do you think it is? You can write dictatorship, or you can write democracy, or you can, like, whatever you think that form of government is. That might be one approach you take to classifying the documents. Because the goal here is you need to be able to take all of these documents and classify them, try to group them at least 3 ways. So maybe this is the kind of governments that they didn't want, this is the kind of governments that they found didn't work, and this is the kind of government that was the most frequently used. So maybe that's what you'll see as you read through all the documents. Maybe those are the 3 categories you can use. Maybe it's their political attitudes and state structures. They started this way in the first body paragraph, then they ended up changing it to this in the second body paragraph, and then this was the final result in the third body paragraph. So you're not going to be talking just about like Brazil or Argentina. You need to talk about Latin America as a whole. If you can make general statements, like in general, Latin American governments were like this. So try to make 3 body paragraphs that show either a beginning, middle, and end of the 1800s government forms and political attitudes, or they liked this, and they didn't like this. 3 different types. But use the documents. So here's the thing: when you use the documents, you're not going to say, don't directly quote. I know what the documents say, so don't directly quote, cabinets had short and precarious lives, holding office only as long as it pleased the emperor. I know that. All you need to do is, in the first body paragraph, let's say, and I'm not talking about introduction, I'm talking about the body paragraph, so it would be the second paragraph of your writing. So the first body paragraph, you might say information about how one form that Latin American governments used was emperors, were a single strong ruler. So we already saw the one document, you've seen the other documents in here, and then this document 9, for instance. So you'll say blah, 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 they like one ruler, blah, blah, blah. The reason for this is, try to give an example, try to analyze and tell why they had these attitudes. So blah, 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 they like it this way because blah, blah, blah. And then at the end of the paragraph, don't put documents or anything in the paragraph. At the end of the paragraph, put parentheses and list the documents that you used to prove your point in that body paragraph. So whenever you're saying they like single strong rulers, maybe that's document 1, document 5, document 9. So at the end of the first body paragraph, you would put parentheses, document 1, document 5, document 9, just for example. Then the second body paragraph, you'll make your next argument. The other type of government or attitude that they had was this. The attitude was that common people shouldn't be trusted to run their own government, blah, 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 and then give examples and proof. Don't directly quote documents to prove it. Analyze, and then say why they had these as much as you can. Then something else to throw in there is bias. Bias is a point of view. Why would the document... In other words, like if you have a sibling, and you and your sibling are playing, and a lamp gets broken, you know you're both going to be in trouble. The story is going to be very different from the story your sibling tells. Your story will probably be, you guys were just playing, and your sibling threw the ball too hard, and you couldn't catch it, and so the ball hit the lamp, and it's your sibling's fault they broke the lamp. Now, your sibling would tell another side of the story. They would say, I threw the ball at him, but he ran, and he moved so that it would break the lamp. He wanted me to break the lamp. So your sibling has a totally different point of view. Now, what am I talking about here? Does it sound like I'm rambling? No, because each document is like a sibling. Either this document is you, or it's your sibling. What bias do they have? Why would they be saying what they are saying? Where are they in society, maybe? Are they part of the upper class? Are they a Creole? Or are they a mestizo or mulatto? Like, where in society are they? Tell you bias. So, if there is a bias to this document, it might make us not have the whole story. So, what you could try to do is, for at least 3 documents, so that way if one of them isn't really good example, you have 2 more to fall back on. Try it for at least, if you want to try for every document, that'd be great. But, let's say in that first body paragraph example I just talked to you about, where we say documents 1, 5, and 9. You could say something like, document 9 is biased, however, because, and then give a reason why, because this was an abolitionist and reformer who is talking about an emperor. So if he's an abolitionist, he wants to get rid of slavery, he's a diplomat, he's a reformer, he might not like the emperor so much. So maybe he's going to be biased against the whole idea of an emperor. So everything that he says is going to be maybe negative. Or maybe he was, since he's a diplomat, maybe he's working with the emperor. And so everything he's saying is going to support the emperor because he needs to back up his own side. He's not going to say anything bad about his own ideas. He's going to say what backs up his own side. So that's what bias is. As you read through these documents, what are they saying that makes it a little more difficult to get the whole story because they're only presenting one side of the story? Then the last thing that you need to make sure you include in your DBQ response is if there was a document 11. Sorry, too far. Scroll back up. If there's a document 11, what would that document be? In your conclusion, you can say, it would be more helpful to analyze the state structures and political attitudes of Latin America if there was a document that came from this person. Don't say a document that came from a peasant. And so that's kind of how you can wrap up the whole thing in the conclusion, is by starting by saying, these are the political attitudes. They like this, they didn't like this, or whatever you come up with. Something that would be easier to answer the question when you're closing up would be if there was a document from a Creole who was opposed to democracy, or if there was a merchant who saw multiple forms of government and could make a comparison, something like that. If there was an 11th document, what would really help you answer? If you had one magic document, what would be that document that helps you answer this whole prompt? So again, you're using all these documents to analyze the state structures and political attitudes. And so state structures are, what kind of governments did they have? Political attitudes are, what did they think about government? What were their ideas about government? Then this is that last part, what additional types of documentation. So make sure if you're, I put the little example of the rubric that I'm going to use when I grade this for you guys. It's going to be on a 7-point scale. Use this. Make sure you have a thesis. Support the thesis with evidence from all of the documents. Use all 10 documents. That's the next part. Uses all or all but one. I want to see all of them. That's something you guys need to practice. Group them as many ways as possible. So you should have at least 3 groups because you need 3 body paragraphs. Takes into account both the sources of the documents and the author's point of view. That's the bias. If you do all that, you're going to be A-okay. Please feel free to email me. I've gotten lots of emails over the last few days. So email me if you have questions. You can chat on the Remind app as well if you would like. And otherwise, good luck. I have faith in you all, and I think I'm going to get some good stuff. You guys are scholars. See you Monday.